Hi, I'm Anna. Welcome to Iguanaland. So reptiles come in many different shapes and sizes, and today let's talk about some of our favorite giants, the giant tortoises. So what is a tortoise? Well, tortoises are a group of turtles, and turtles and tortoises are reptiles that have a hard, bony shell. This shell is made out of bone and is part of their skeleton. They are born inside it, and it grows with them as they get older. They cannot come out of their shells. Like I said, their shell is made out of bone, so their spine actually runs straight down the middle of their shell, down their back, and their ribs help to make up the sides of the shell. It's all fused together. And this big shell works as an armor plating that helps keep them safe from predators and their environment. Tortoises are land animals. They have big, thick legs with flat feet and short nails for walking and digging, and they generally have a higher domed shell than aquatic turtles. Modernly, we have two groups of extant or currently living giant tortoises. The Galapagos tortoises on the Galapagos Islands, which are off the west coast of Central America in the Pacific Ocean, and the Aldabra tortoises, which are in the Aldabra Atoll and Seychelles Islands off the east coast of Africa in the Indian Ocean. Even though these two species are very similar looking, they're actually not very closely related at all. And we have fossil evidence for many different species of giant tortoises from all over the world. So when we look through time, we can see that these kind of giant tortoises have evolved over and over in many different places. So if these two groups of animals are so different, why do they look so similar? Well, there are two evolutionary principles at work here that really help to tell us this story. The first is called island gigantism. This is when animals have become isolated from their mainland populations, usually on islands, and when those original mainland populations are small animals, they tend to get very big over evolutionary time on an island. This is usually due to abundance of food supply and lack of natural predators. And with the tortoises, we believe it also has to do with thermoregulation, how they can warm and cool their bodies. Tortoises are reptiles, and reptiles are cold-blooded. This means they can't regulate their own body temperature the way we can, so they need the heat from the environment around them to help keep their bodies at an appropriate temperature. So in some environments, a large size can help make this easier. The other mechanism at play is called convergent evolution. This is when animals that are not closely related evolve similar traits and behaviors to solve similar problems in their environment. Both the Galapagos and the Aldabra Islands have pretty similar environments. So over time, this is going to lead these animals to look more and more like each other because they're solving the same kinds of problems with the same toolkits. Aldabra tortoises are generally considered to be the second largest species of tortoise, after the Galapagos tortoises. But on average, they are very similar in size. Here at Iguanaland, Allie is our adult Aldabra tortoise, and she is the largest tortoise in the zoo. She's almost 40 years old, and therefore she's considered to just be coming into maturity now. In human care, giant tortoises can easily live to be 150 to 200 years old, and likely even older than that. As big as Allie is, she's not even quite full grown. Adult male Aldabra tortoises can average about 550 pounds, while the adult females average closer to 350. Aldabra tortoises are native to the Aldabra Atoll and the Seychelles Islands in the Indian Ocean, kind of between Madagascar and Africa. It is believed that many of the islands in the western Indian Ocean historically had populations of giant tortoises, and they may have even represented several different species. But by the mid-1800s, these tortoises had been completely removed from all of the islands except the much more isolated Aldabra Atoll and some of the Seychelles Islands, all directly due to human exploitation and overhunting. Aldabra tortoises are herbivores and primarily eat grasses and leaves with some fruits and flowers. They're generally grazers, meaning that they typically eat off the ground as opposed to picking up leaves off the trees, which we would call browsing. A diet high in grass requires a little more effort for the animals to make sure they're getting as many nutrients from their food as possible. Grass has thick cell walls and is very tough and hard to break down, and doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it anyway. So a tortoise will need to eat a lot of grass, using their strong beak to grab and tear the blades and swallow them whole, as they don't have any teeth or any other way to chew. The grass passes all the way through their digestive system and is excreted as feces. They poop it out. When we look at fresh tortoise feces, you can see that there are many blades of grass still intact. Then, the tortoise will perform coprophagy. They'll eat their own poop. The grass that has already been digested once will be able to be broken down better the second time through the digestive system, allowing them to get as much nutrition from their meal as possible. This sounds really gross to us because our bodies don't need to do this. We generally chew our food to help break it down, and we usually eat things that are easier for our bodies to digest. But it's very common in the animal world, especially in animals that mostly eat grass. You might be more familiar with the Galapagos tortoises, as the Galapagos Islands and the many amazing animals that live there are often the subject of nature documentaries. Charles Darwin studied this amazing diversity, and his observations in the Galapagos helped him to develop and refine his theory of evolution. Typically cited as the largest tortoise in the world, adult male Galapagos tortoises can reach weights of over 600 pounds, and the females typically average about 400 pounds. Like the Aldabra tortoises, this species is extremely long-lived, with a life expectancy in human care of 150 to 200 years or more. The Galapagos Islands are a chain of volcanic islands off the west coast of Central America. So how did the tortoises get out onto these islands? Well, they floated there. Fossil evidence on the mainland leads scientists to believe that the ancestors of Galapagos tortoises were probably already pretty big. While tortoises are not very good swimmers, they are buoyant. They will float, especially in salt water. They also have very long necks for their body size, which would help them keep their head above water if they were floating. They're also able to go long periods of time without food or water if they really need to. So what probably happened was some tortoises were accidentally swept out to sea from mainland South America and carried by the Humboldt Current up to the Galapagos Islands. It is even possible that this was just one single gravid female, a female who has already had developing eggs inside of her. Over time, the population grew and adapted to this new environment and eventually spread island to island, probably in the very same way. From fossils, historical records, and modern specimens, it's believed that there are probably about 15 subspecies of the Galapagos tortoise. They're a little bit different on each of the islands. Although several of these subspecies have become extinct in the last few hundred years due directly to human exploitation. European sailors, as far back as the 1600s, would collect tortoises and keep them on their ships as a food source on long ocean journeys. Giant tortoises are very slow and have virtually no natural predators, so it was very easy for men to come up and just take as many of them as they wanted. Thankfully today, all of the species in the Galapagos are heavily protected, and many scientists are working hard to conserve these species for the future. We are very lucky to have a group of 8 young Galapagos tortoises here at Iguanaland. This herd is here on loan to us from Reptile Gardens in South Dakota. After Iguanaland, Reptile Gardens is the largest reptile zoo in the US, and we are so thankful to be able to work with them, and we are very grateful for their generosity in sharing these beautiful little tortoises with us. All of these tortoises are 2 or 3 years old, so we expect them to be here for a very, very long time. In honor of giant tortoises being native to islands, this herd are all named after islands from around the world. Let's go meet them. First, we have Cyprus. This is Bermuda. This is St. Helena. Here is Aruba. This is Maui. This is Fernandina. Here is Grenada. And last but not least, our littlest tortoise is Bonaire. When they are very young, these tortoises grow quite quickly. This is Bermuda. They're about 3 years old. And this is Fernandina. They're about 2. What a difference a year makes. Our 3-year-old tortoises weigh about 9 pounds each, and our 2-year-olds weigh about 3. We cannot wait to watch these tortoises continue to grow and thrive. At this size and age, we can't tell if these tortoises are male or female without a blood test. So it'll likely be 3 to 5 years before we know the sex of any of these individuals. This was just a small peek into the world of giant tortoises. We hope you'll be able to visit us at Iguanaland soon and meet our gentle giants. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.